Biden is now going after ceiling fans to reduce air pollution.
Did you know that as of August 1st, incandescent light bulbs are illegal to sell?
Eco-friendly paper straws actually contain more toxic forever chemicals than traditional plastic straws.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic, and we are unapologetically outspoken. Hey, Stephanie. So I'm sitting in my office while we're recording this podcast, and it's a nice day, but it's still kind of hot outside because it's the middle of summer in Texas. And I've got my ceiling fan going, and it's like really comfortable and a nice little breeze in here. And you know who wants to suck this joy out of my life, Stephanie?
Let me guess, Biden?
Yes, fucking Biden. Because apparently, as if banning gas stoves and gas vehicles was not enough, Herr Biden is now going after ceiling fans to reduce air pollution. And I don't really think there's a whole lot of air pollution going on in my house. But I guess the Department of Energy is saying that in addition to fighting air pollution, this is going to save people a whole lot of money on energy costs. And Stephanie,
Ceiling fans.
Yes,
Ceiling fans.
Yeah, guess how much money?
How much?
An entire $39 over the lifespan.
Over the lifespan.
Of a new energy efficient ceiling fan. So how many years does a ceiling fan last? Like, I'm going to guess 8 to 10 on the low end, right?
Yeah, probably higher than that, I would think.
Yeah, like maybe 15 or so. And like when I saw this, I just it made my blood boil, because if we were an energy efficient country and we produced our own renewable resources like we were capable of, I could be saving $39 in one fucking week at the gas pumps and not at a period of over 10 years on a fucking ceiling fan. And do you know how much this quote savings is actually going to cost?
No idea.
Take a guess.
Cost like the country, like the everyone?
Yeah.
$1 million.
Yeah, well, no. According to Fox Business, the Department of Energy, which is the one that's promoting this, is saying that it's going to cost a total of $86.6 million a year due to the fact that manufacturers are going to have to upgrade and change their equipment to make these new energy compliant ceiling fans. This is coming directly from the Department of Energy, saying that it's going to save consumers $39, but it's going to cost $86.6 million a year.
Okay, but I do not buy that it's going to save consumers that $39 because, hello, I live in Florida where it's freaking hot all the time. And when we don't want to crank the air conditioning up, we turn the fans on because that saves on our electric bill. Because if you don't have fans running, then we tend to turn the air up and that costs a hell of a lot more. So I don't even think that makes sense.
No, none of it makes sense. And so there's several GOP Congress members, and they're part of this committee on small businesses. And they wrote a letter to the DOE Secretary Jennifer Granholm last Thursday. And in the letter, they stated, quote, "This proposed rule would decrease the maximum estimated energy consumption permissible for large diameter and belt-driven ceiling fans. This rule would require numerous small business fan manufacturers to redesign their products and may put 10 to 30% of small business ceiling fan manufacturers out of business." And so what was the response from the Department of Energy? Well, basically, they said that these rules won't take effect until 2028. So fuck you, right? And the hardworking tax-paying Americans need to have more energy efficient options to choose from. And so my take on this is basically hardworking tax-paying Americans are going to save $39 over the span of 10 to 15 years on a ceiling fan that they're more than likely going to be paying well over $39 for in the first place, or well over more than $39 for in the first place, because manufacturers have to increase their prices to account for these insane production and manufacturing costs that are basically being forced on these companies by our climate crazy federal government to accommodate redesigning their equipment. So in the end, the manufacturer pays more and the consumer pays more. So where is the quote option here?
every move this administration makes has us paying more.
Right.
And like at this point, I feel like they're messing with our minds. Just seeing
Ceiling
like
fan.
how much can we mess with them? How much can we poke the bear? I mean, this is ridiculous. And what's concerning is if they're going after ceiling fans, air conditioning is going to come.
Oh
There's
yeah.
going to be a point where they're going to try to go after that. And fuck that. I live in Florida. It is humid all the time. Like that's a little concerning. And then what about the poor? There's a guy in Tampa that owns a fan store. You want to know what it's called? It's called Dan's Fans. And Dan is the owner and he is the nicest guy. And this poor freaking guy is going to go out of business now thanks to Biden.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Well, in the spirit of banning common household items, did you know that as of August 1st, incandescent light bulbs are illegal to sell?
I heard it was coming. I remember
Yeah.
a few months ago about that.
It's now illegal. And apparently, everything must be 45 lumens per watt. So basically, what that means is LED light bulbs that are pretty much the only option we're going to have now. Now, I don't think that's too much of a big deal because I feel like LED has been replacing regular bulbs for a really long time now. But I don't like how the government is getting involved in banning them. Like, just let the consumers choose. Like, that is what happens when you're in this capitalist society. There's supply and there's demand. Like, let the consumer have the choice. But what I didn't know until I started looking into this is that LED light can cause all kinds of health issues. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Well, apparently it's a pretty big deal. According to the Cleveland Clinic, they say that LEDs produce shortwave, high energy blue light, which has been linked to biological and sleep disturbances. And then there was a Spanish study in 2012 that found that LED radiation can cause irreversible damage to the retina, which is why they have like those blue light blocker glasses
Yeah.
now. I didn't realize though that it was like that much damage that it can do. And then in 2019, there was a report from the French Agency for Food, Environmental, and Occupational Health and Safety. And they warned that phototoxic effects of blue light exposure, including an increased risk for age-related macular degeneration. And the other thing is that I guess it's a lot more harmful for children because their eyes can't filter blue light as good as adults. So this can lead to them being nearsighted, having trouble sleeping, and then eye strain. So, like, again, I'm not completely against LED or anything like that. Like, this is the way it's been going, but it should be a consumer choice. It shouldn't be something that the government is forcing and making illegal.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Even though I do like the type of light that it puts out, but I want the fucking choice.
Yeah.
And here's another interesting one. The whole climate change environmentalist push for paper straws. Well, they're actually harmful and bullshit. So, several states, including like California, Oregon, New York, Washington, D.C., and Colorado, they all banned plastic drinking straws a couple years ago. And, restaurants had to start using those shitty biodegradable paper straws. Well, there was a new study that came out last week, and it found that the vast majority of these, quote, eco-friendly paper straws actually contain more toxic forever chemicals than traditional plastic straws. And we talked about forever chemicals about a month ago and how dangerous and toxic they are. And this new European study that was published last Thursday examined 39 brands of straws. They included paper, glass, bamboo, stainless steel, and plastic straws in their study. And the results of the study found that 90%, 90 fucking percent of paper straws had forever chemicals. And it's due to that like water repellent coating that they put on the straws. And apparently there was a similar study back in 2021 that found that plastic straws had no measurable forever chemicals, but they were detected in paper and other plant-based straws. So for all of you fucking climate alarmists, and even the decent people who think like you're helping the environment because you're drinking your Starbucks coffee through these soggy, disgusting paper straws that get all soft and chewy in your mouth after a few minutes, and like you think you're doing good for the environment, well, you're actually ingesting more forever chemicals than you would if you just used a traditional fucking plastic straw.
Well, and I could see that because, like you said, it gets all soft and chewy. Like you can tell you're ingesting part of the straw
Yes.
because it starts to like disintegrate. And so
Mhm.
I could just imagine all those chemicals now are in your digestive tract, which is
Yeah.
scary. And then what about, you would think too, all the containers, like all these restaurants, same thing. They're trying to get rid of plastic containers and use these paper ones. It's probably the same freaking thing that those chemicals are going into the food.
Yeah, because you have to coat them with
Mhm.
that water resistant coating. Otherwise, the food is going to leak through the container. So there's that. And then in other news, Stephanie, did you know that this is Overdose Awareness Week?
I didn't know that, but I started watching a new Netflix series called shit, what's it called? Something about big pharma and the opioid overdose epidemic. So I've been like all about this whole thing for like a couple days now.
Yeah, well, apparently last Friday, Biden announced that this is Overdose Awareness Week. I guess it's maybe the second or third one that we've had. Um, and he basically, in his little speech, vowed that he was going to take, quote, bold action to address the high numbers of drug deaths in the United States. Those record numbers of drug deaths that Biden himself is responsible for by allowing this unprecedented amount of fentanyl across our open and unprotected border. And guess what did not come up in this speech when Biden was talking about the fentanyl crisis here in the United States? No mention of the Mexican cartels or China or our open border. And those together are the primary cause of the fentanyl crisis in America because all of the chemicals that the cartels use to produce fentanyl that they smuggle across our border all come from fucking China. But we're not going to talk about any of that. And like,
No,
how
if
many?
he wanted to take bold action, he would close the border. That would be the bold
Exactly.
action to take.
Exactly. And like, how many Americans have died from fentanyl since Biden took office?
So I actually was trying to find the stats from this year, but they don't have them out yet. But in 2021 and 2022, there were 190,000 deaths of overdose from this stuff. Like, it is pure poison. It's 100 times more potent than morphine and 50 times more potent than heroin. Like, that's scary. And what's really scary is that not only are they putting it in other street drugs, but there's also all of these counterfeit prescription pills that look like the real thing, but are fake. And so what's happening is you see a lot of students, a lot of high school kids, college kids that think that they're getting an Adderall to get them through finals, and they're not. And one pill kills them.
Yeah. And since 2021, Texas has seized more than 422 million doses of fentanyl. That's just in Texas, right? And that's enough fentanyl to kill every American in this country. But who's taking credit for seizing these drugs? Fucking Biden. Like, he's talking about how his administration has seized more than 1.6 million pounds of drugs at the border, and 42,000 pounds of that was fentanyl. And you know what, fucker? Like, no, your administration is responsible for this crisis in the first place. And you've done nothing, like absolutely nothing to fucking stop it. And when Governor Abbott in Texas tries to take charge and slow the migrant crisis at the border that Biden refuses to fucking close, like he did last month when he put that floating border barrier of like large orange buoys up in the Rio Grande River. What the fuck did the Biden administration do? Oh, they filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas saying that Abbott didn't have the required federal approval to erect the barrier. And now you want to act like you give a fuck by promoting Overdose Awareness Week? Fuck you.
It's like a slap in the face to
It
every
is.
single person who has lost someone to fentanyl.
Yeah. And like we talk about all the time, close the fucking border, right? But instead of doing that, do you know what this fucker is doing? Biden wants to lift sanctions on China in hopes of getting Xi Jinping to just have a conversation about cooperating with slowing the flow of fentanyl products into the United States. Like, what's the solution? Close the fucking border.
Yeah, you really think first of all, he's not going to have a conversation with Biden. Second of
Right.
all, does he really think he's just going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. We'll get right on that. No,
Yeah.
they're doing this on purpose.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm just so fed up with the shit. And then, like, the last thing that I want to mention, there was an article that came out in the Washington Free Beacon last week. And this, I thought of this because it's border related. And it was talking about how the Department of Labor's Office of the Inspector, I can't speak today, Jesus. Office of the Inspector General is conducting an audit and opening an investigation on the Labor Department's role in all of these like child labor violations of migrants across the country. And so this is basically linked to the whole scandal that was involving the Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services, and the White House back when all of these like remember a few months ago, we were talking about the Biden administration's like human trafficking scheme with releasing all these migrant kids into the country by the thousands. And like these kids have ended up in factories and industrial facilities doing hard labor. And remember that HHS whistleblowers came forward talking about child trafficking and these kids being sent to live with unscreened adults. And it was found that like many of these adults were sex offenders and had criminal records for child neglect. And apparently, yeah, and like back in July, Bloomberg reported that over the past 10 months alone, the Department of Labor's Wage Division has concluded 765 cases involving almost 4,500 children being employed in violation of federal child labor laws. And since 2018, the department has reported a 69% increase in child labor violations. And where is this all coming from? From the fucking migrant children.
I feel like we're turning into a third world country.
Yeah.
We have like, election interference, them arresting their political opponent. Now we have child labor and all this human trafficking and cartels basically running things at the border. Like we are turning into a freaking third world country.
Yeah. And like there hasn't been much about this on the news, especially in light of everything being Trump. But I'm very interested to see what happens with this audit. And I know that my boyfriend, Senator Josh Hawley, is going to report on it because he is always at the forefront of what's going on with this issue. So I think this just gives me more of an excuse to follow his Instagram posts.
Okay. So when your boyfriend has some news, we'll update everyone on that. And I was just thinking about it the other day because I was like, it was months ago that they said 85,000 children were missing. How many is it now? Like, why isn't it all over the place? Everyone's kind of forgotten about it because there's so many other things that this corrupt government is doing. But we'll count on your boyfriend to give us a little update, and we'll let everyone know about that. So there's some exciting and shitty things in the forefront for the United States. Your, incandescent light bulbs, your ceiling fans are going away, but fentanyl is here to stay. So we'll keep everyone posted on the latest, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. If you're sick of all the crazy shit going on in our country and you want to express your support and patriotism for the show, head on over to our Etsy store at UO Patriot Chicks and check out our new stickers. The link can also be found on our website. If you love the show and you want exclusive episodes, support the podcast and join the conversation by becoming a member of our Patreon community. We'll be posting weekly member-only podcast episodes and content that isn't available on the weekly podcast. Every Patreon member will also get a free Unapologetically Outspoken sticker and updates about our new sticker release before they're made public. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at Unapologetically Outspoken. And if you haven't done so already, please rate and review the podcast. The more you support us, the more people we can reach. So help us spread the word.